Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Impartner Research and Action webinar, Channel Enablement and Marketing for a New Decade. This is Kerry Desberg. I'm the CMO of Impartner, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Peter O'Neill. He is the Research Director for Research and Action. Welcome, Peter.
Yeah, hello, Kerry, and thank you very much for inviting me.
So glad you're here. For those of you who don't know Research and Action, they are a leading independent information and communications technology research and consulting company. Peter, a lot of you out there know Peter. He's most known for his 12 years at Forrester Research as an industry analyst, most significantly for the work that he directed for the research on the B2B marketing organization process and automation research that Forrester has done. I think anybody who's out there in channel marketing and channel enablement today knows Peter's name from that long tenure. Before Forrester, Peter held a number of channel leadership positions at HP. So Research in Action has just released global research on channel marketing and enablement. It's the result of extensive research surveying over 1,500 business professionals such as yourselves, and broad market research summarizing 100,000 data points. It is broad, wide research, and Peter will talk in more detail about how they've conducted that, so you really know where this data is coming from as we get into this report. I'll tell you, as a company, we are so proud that Impartner emerged as the #1 most complete channel management solution amongst the top 20 global players in the market. We're very excited about that. And just as exciting is really the 7 key trends that have emerged in this research about what's transforming the channel, what those top channel marketers are looking at as they build out their technology go-to-market infrastructure for this year and the new decade beyond. So we're really going to dig in that today. But first, let me just give you the briefest intro to Impartner. We are the fastest growing, most award-winning, most complete pure-play channel management platform out there in the market. Globally, studies of our customers with anonymized results tell us that in the first year of use alone, we deliver a 32.3% increase in revenue and a 29% decrease in administrative costs because we automate those operational basics. Plus, for everybody is out there, we're working to be ahead of the competition. 78% say Impartner gives them a competitive advantage over their competition, and 77% report an ROI payback in 18 months or less. We have won award after award globally, and the results for our company, or the results we deliver for our customers, have driven an absolute explosion of growth. These are our customers in 2015, and this is where we are this year. It's just been an absolutely amazing journey of transformation based on the results that we deliver, and it's really exciting to, let me turn this over to Peter to talk about the key trends that channel management and enablement technologies like ours can deliver, and how they can deliver, or how they can help transform your business. So without any further ado, Peter, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, Kerry, many thanks for this opportunity to discuss the vendor landscape around channel enablement and marketing. Thank you for the invitation. Now, last year, I actually published 9 separate research reports on various topics around B2B marketing. But I was always looking forward to doing work on this topic especially, because I was deeply curious about this market and really expecting to hear about great change and progress compared to my last review of the market, which was back when I was still at Forrester in 2017. As we'll hear in a few moments, my research now is a little bit different than the classical Forrester or GARTNER group work. I tend to discuss the marketing process in my interviews with business people, and then ask them which vendors they work with on that process. I try to avoid category terms invented by other analysts or product managers, but because the chances are that business people don't think in technology categories. I mean, that's more of an IT department trait. I'm convinced that IT is now much less involved in buying application software than they used to be. Of course, Forrester and GARTNER have defined several categories of software for this topic, but I used one term only to describe the process, or let's call them a family of processes that I was surveying. And my term was channel marketing or channel enablement and marketing, as defined here. Now, these processes cover the tasks involved for a manufacturer or a vendor distributing products and services through partner organizations as their indirect channel. And the two categories that are most important to marketing professionals are channel marketing and channel enablement. Channel marketing, well, that's brand and asset management, where programs and promotions and leads are managed both down and up the channel. Now, channel marketing is often also known as local or distributed marketing, or even as through channel marketing automation, actually a term that we invented back at Forrester, TCMA. Often the channel is closely linked to the vendor, though, as geographic subsidiaries or as exclusive distributors or agents. But vendors who are distributing via more independent partners have more complex challenges. They must also manage processes around the partner relationship itself: recruitment, registration, classification, contractual details, information exchange, and much more. Now, this process family is known as partner relationship management, PRM, as it has many similarities with CRM. Increasingly, channel marketers also want to include marketing processes into their PRM project requirements so that they can enable their marketing colleagues in the partner organizations to leverage the same content and programs that they use in their own direct marketing. Now, as I said a moment ago, I was very expectant of this research. I'd assumed that this software market would be energized by a clear transformation in the relevance of channel strategy for modern businesses. Here, I've described how I see this transformation under 7 trend headlines. Now, over time, I think that all these aspects of channel management are moving from the left side state to the new or emerging state described in the corresponding right side. Now, let's be honest, for decades, channel enablement and marketing was really just a peripheral process in most industries. The mantra was, first we sell direct and then we'll find some partners, which was fine for most firms then because they were selling physical products or on-premise software and really only needed knowledgeable sellers to present and position the offer to buyers. The people responsible for the channel side of the business were usually working in their own silo, often outside of the view of marketing or even sales management, usually not considered to be a strategic part of the company even. But now, well, now almost every industry is morphing to an as-a-service business model. And buyers are now starting to pull the service based on their own research. But hey, channel partners are not being disintermediated. Now, that was a sort of strange cliche back in the 1990s when the internet took hold and everybody was writing about e-business and e-commerce, taking work away from channel partners. If anything, the channel has become even more influential and advocational for businesses. But the business model in the channel has changed too, and they're more likely to live off revenues earned from the end user than from the manufacturer they now occasionally represent. And in addition to resellers and distributors, we now have channel players called affiliates, referrers, associations, communities, groups, ambassadors. The list will continue over the next years. Now, this transformation has already hit the tech industry hard. Early last year, I remember sitting on the top floor of Salesforce Tower in San Francisco and reviewing the briefings I had heard that day from Salesforce. They had told me that they plan to work with perhaps 250,000 new partners in the near future. Yes, that was the number, 250,000. They said that it was the only way that they can double the revenue in the next 5 years. Now, they know that software as a service is not necessarily a reselling market. Typically, only around 30% of SaaS revenues are booked by partners, which is different compared to the old software models of around 70% reselling. But Salesforce realized that their future success will depend on the recommendations and influence of many new intermediaries, most of whom the vendor will not even know or recruit formally as reselling partners. There will be lawyers, tax advisors, estate agents or realtors, as they're called in the US, financial advisors, basically to cite that nursery rhyme, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. The Swiss software company Veeam, who provide cloud data management software and lead their industry segment as a SaaS offering, already work through 70,000 partners around the world. And there's no way that they can have hundreds of partner recruiters and managers to handle that volume. They have to rely on the software platform to do that. And their channel enablement platform includes a concierge program in recognition of trend number 4 on this slide. The program provides relevant information to a concierge partner and also rewards that behavior. And I know that one of your colleagues, Kerry, TeamViewer, headquartered in Germany, has similar challenges. It's not only the tech industry. When I talked to one of the global leading manufacturers of industrial bearings, Schaeffler Group here in Germany, they've found out that their new sensor technology has created a whole set of new markets for them as an Internet of Things data provider. For example, the sensors they have installed in trains is now being combined with artificial intelligence technology to provide important maintenance data about the railway tracks themselves, which they can sell on to the Bundesbahn, who maintain infrastructure here in Germany. Schaeffler continues to be a manufacturer and supplier, but now also has a data service business through new partnerships. As a service is happening everywhere. Now, ultimately, when all of these trends have completed their cycle from left to right, manufacturers will need a much more holistic partner automation system which covers all of these scenarios. I say much more holistic because, well, till now, most channel software has been focused on just one or two of the family of processes under channel enablement and marketing. So that was my background thinking to my research across 1,500 businesses, which I fielded in Q3 of last year. Now, here is what the 1,500 respondents named as their #1 investment area. And as you can see, there is an almost equal focus on those top 3 items, an equal focus on sales, marketing, and business management success. Nothing really startling yet. We actually interviewed people in marketing, in sales, and in business management, and I'm sure that each voted themselves as the #1 priority, which averages out well over the 1,500 respondents. But the second question that we asked of the 1,500 gave a clear marker. The business buyers are now looking for a software platform that does cover all of their needs: partner marketing, partner management, and even partner sales. Actually, as we will see later, the current vendor landscape for this family of processes does not reflect yet this market need. Most of the vendors still focus either on channel marketing or enablement. In my briefings with the vendors, my test question was, how would you handle affiliate partners then? And the response across those interviews was mixed. The vendor landscape continues to be highly fractured with deep specialization. I'm not confident that all of them will be able to react to the disruptions I described above. Manufacturers seeking a channel platform that can support a highly volatile partner community through a much more complete business cycle, from connection to order processing and service delivery. Now, based on those 7 trends I showed you a few moments ago, I expect channel enablement marketing software in the future to also morph to a more general platform for, well, let's call it partnership automation. Because you cannot hire enough recruiters and channel managers to handle the new volumes or timescales. The partner automation processes need to be automated to the highest degree. And the challenge for the vendors in this market is firstly, obviously, to ensure that they're providing the functionality that companies will be looking for. And secondly, ensuring that they are found by potential partners or potential buyers when the buyers go looking on the internet, of course, for a solution to their new partner processes. What questions and taxonomy will they be typing into those search engines? That's quite likely to be different in the future, and we need to find that out. So back to my survey. Another question we asked was about the company's plans to invest in brand new or upgraded software solutions for their channel enablement and marketing processes. The results show that there's a clear intention to invest or even reinvest in each of these technologies. I apologize for not having labeled the bar chart values, but if you add the bottom two orange bars of people migrating or implementing their first TCMA solution, you are adding 34% to 23% to get a total 57% of companies planning to invest in channel marketing software. And nearly 60% of those migrating from an existing solution that clearly does not meet their needs. Now, based on my experience of asking this question for many different topics, these are large numbers, meaning there is a lot of investment planned, a lot of churn among the vendors, but a lot of market opportunity for the vendors as well. The same with channel enablement. Total of 56% of companies are planning to invest in a new software solution, while more than half of those will migrate from their existing solution. In fact, only 10% of the respondents do not need PRM at all. Which brings me to the process itself of how do business buyers now buy software or choose a vendor. Now, it used to be that IT departments would be given the charter, a project to go and look for a solution, acquire it, install it, and then train up the users. So that was when software categories like PRM and TCMA were relevant and perhaps even really important as separate categories. But I think nowadays business people do that on their own. Sure, they still take advice from the IT department when it comes to integrations or infrastructure topics, like which hardware or which cloud platform was preferred. But the business application or family of apps, as it's increasingly becoming called, is now being sought and found by the business people themselves. And here's what my old colleagues at Forrester say about the process. The buyers care most about what their peers are saying about solutions. And then they listen to what experts report. What the vendor has to say about their own products is less important, as you can see in this priority list. So when I left Forrester and started out working with Research in Action, I thought about the type of research and information that I could provide to potential buyers to help them to put together their short list of vendors to consider. The alternatives or the current alternatives around are these two extremes. You can see Gartner Group and Forrester providing analyst-led reports about the marketplaces, about categories and about vendors in that category. And on the far right, you can see a different option, the sort of trip advisors of our business now, G2 Crowd, Capterra, TrustRadius, are collections of reviews and comments by users and buyers of the applications themselves. So you have these two options, and what we wanted to provide at Research in Action was something that compromised or was in the middle of these two extremes. And so we developed a methodology that combines these two efforts and really addresses that need that we saw from the buyers of interesting information and reviews from peers, but also maybe the expert point of view in addition, but not exclusively either or. So we developed this process where we actually start our whole research project by surveying the marketplace. We go out to, on a global report, 1,500 businesses, as you can see, around the world, around different industries, different company sizes as well, and also a mix of job titles, because most application software buying decisions are made by a committee of different members of user organizations, but also other organizations touched by the software, who are involved in the software decisions. So it's important to understand the perspective and the point of view of all these different buyer personalities and buyer personas. This concept and this methodology is something that we've now developed over the last 4 or 5 years at Research in Action, where we do, I do all the different reports around the marketing automation topics, and I have other colleagues that do research and reports around IT operations topics. Compare that to what goes on at Gartner and Forrester. And I worked 12 years at Forrester, so I have a little bit of background here in being able to talk about this process. What those research companies do is that the analyst is responsible usually for providing maybe 4 or 5 Gartner Magic Quadrants each year, or Forrester Waves, and they design their project around the topic that they're most interested in. They think about the vendors they would like to include in that report, and that list is very influenced by, of course, the reader that they anticipate for their reports, and they are the classical Gartner Group and Forrester Research subscribers, who are mainly large enterprises and primarily North American-based large enterprises. So that informs and determines the vendors that get included into the process. I know from discussions with the vendors, there's a lot of work from the vendor side to be involved in these projects, because they have to answer detailed questionnaires, provide detailed demos, and have long interviews and briefing discussions. At the end of the day, there's usually a scoring schema that the analyst goes through, and the analyst then is writing the full report out with their point of view about that market category and about the vendors in the category. So it's purely the analyst point of view. It's purely targeted to the classical customers of Gartner Group or Forrester Research. Our process is a little bit different. We start with the process and not a category. We start with the market and not the vendors. And I hear a lot from the vendors that we talk to that they're very pleased that they only really have to invest, let's say, an hour of their time with us in terms of briefing us and informing us about their go-to-market strategy, their product roadmap, and so on, so that the analyst can then provide some of the scores that end up in the report. To be honest, most of the scores in the report and the scoring in the report is coming from the survey from the users that we've surveyed around the world. So in this survey that we did around channel marketing and enablement, we started our survey in Q3 of last year, and we named that channel enablement and marketing process and asked the respondents to score vendors that they know in that overall context. And then the 20 vendors with the highest ratings and sufficient mentions are then usually profiled in our final report. Note that as in all our what we call vendor selection matrix results, that's the name of the report, the vendor selection matrix, the 20 vendors they're not always direct competitors. Firstly, not all operate globally, so there's sometimes a clear geographic separation. And similarly, not all vendors address all industries or all company size segments. So it's often the case that I get feedback from the vendors that they see companies being compared or being compared to that are not companies they normally would see in the deals that they're involved in. But that's the nature of the methodology that we're implementing. Now, additionally, in this survey, we found that only a few of the vendors actually covered both channel enablement and marketing. But remember, that was one of the highest priorities cited by the buyer respondents. So perhaps this will have to change in the future. But today, most of the vendors still focus on just one aspect of enablement and marketing only. And actually, because of that, we decided to publish 3 separate reports using the survey data, one for TCMA, one for PRM, and one for both. Now, there was one other strange outcome of this research project. Very strange indeed. For the first time in 5 years of collecting this data and producing these types of reports, there were vendors who insisted on not being listed, on being omitted from the report. Not at the start of the project when we showed them the initial data and asked for a briefing. No, when they were finished when we were finished with the project and had created the matrix graphic, which does compare the vendors a little. The input from over 100 of our survey respondents had to be written off because those vendors stated that they had not given permission to us nor their customers to talk about them. Very strange indeed. Now, the omitted vendors are Zinfi Technologies, Allbase, and Mind Matrix. And I still have the CEO of Zinfi writing to me on an ongoing basis, accusing me of fake research, whatever that is supposed to mean. Now, it could be that he just read the draft report just as far as this slide, and you can imagine where Zinfi was listed, because it's based on the alphabet and Zinfi starts with a Z. But actually, the position of Zinfi in the vendor selection matrix itself was no different than where they were in last year's Forrester Wave. So his position continues to be quite a mystery to me. But okay. The criteria that we asked about and tested and scored are listed here. Basically 70% of the scores come from the survey of the business people, business practitioners. I, as an analyst, only get to score the companies on their viability and execution capabilities and their market share and growth capabilities. So I'm responsible for 30% of the scoring, and you can see the weighting here, and the 1,500 business practitioners that we surveyed are responsible for 70% of the scoring. The end result of the scoring schema is this graphic, as you can see here. Now, this is the one report that now focuses on those vendors who can do both marketing and enablement. And you can see the 5 vendors that survived this list and how they're scoring relative to each other. And just for completeness, I'll share with you the other reports or the other matrices as well. Here's the matrix focused on through channel marketing automation, includes those 5 vendors you saw on the previous slide, plus of course those vendors who do TCMA only. I think a picture is coming about now as you start to see these things develop. Clearly, the best score for a vendor would be towards the top right, as in most graphics or matrices, because you're combining the best scores for your strategy or how the market sees your strategy, and also the best scores for your execution and how the market sees your execution of go-to-market. So this was the TCMA score. And then last but not least, the third report was specific to partner relationship management, PRM. And it has, again, those 5 vendors who do both, plus those vendors who do PRM specifically, spread out a little bit more now across the matrix. But again, with a similar market leader that we saw in the previous graphics. So my host today on this webinar is Impartner. In the copy of the report that Impartner will be sharing with you, there is this one-page profile of Impartner themselves. We prepared this profile, what we call a vendor scorecard for each of the vendors that are reported, that are covered in the report, and the full report with all the different profiles is provided back to the 1,500 participants in the survey. Now, I've known Impartner for many years, actually. I've covered the whole topic of channel marketing, channel enablement at Forrester as an analyst and as a research director for many years. In fact, I remember Impartner being called Treehouse Interactive in very early Forrester waves. Of course, in the meantime, Impartner has further grown and expanded its capabilities by acquiring companies over here in Europe, which automates many of the social media processes across a channel. And recently, Amplifinity, which has specialized in program management for more new generation partnerships. And I think that's why they've earned the accolade of being probably the most complete platform around at the moment in terms of supporting partner automation programs and partner automation needs. And by the way, there's one final statement on this vendor scorecard, in addition to the sort of general ranking for the total score, where Impartner was top of the table, we also have a special call out for two specific categories that we think are very important for potential buyers. One is customer satisfaction, and the other is price value ratio, or price versus value. And as you can see on the bottom right of this slide, Impartner was called out as having the best price value ratio across the various companies in the survey, responded or marked by those 1,500 companies. So now you heard right at the start my idea of these transformation that's going on and the sort of 7 trends of transformation. In the report itself, I've actually put down some statements around the top market trends for maybe the more short term, and they're a little bit more actionable. And actually this usually forms the basis for much of my consulting work for channel executives or even for some of the vendors involved in this project. Going down the slide, push to pull. The more traditional vendor view of their channel is a registered, enabled and incented partners who are pushing their products to the market. But today's world of empowered buyers, digital and as a service product delivery disrupts this view. And you're going to find new types of partners are emerging that pull business when they need it from a partner with little interest in product margin compensation. And that relationship is actually loosely coupled only, which raises challenges both for channel marketing and channel enablement processes and the automation thereof. Extends to commerce. Digital business is now the norm, so both end buyers and channel partners will expect full process support from manufacturers. Full process support means from the initial awareness through to the purchase to order and billings transactions. And channel enablement systems will need to support that. Rise and fall. As their buyers' profile and preferences change over time, vendors and manufacturers are challenged to identify relevant channel partners, even new partner categories for their business success. And this includes influencers or advocates who do not transact directly with the vendor. So channel software platforms will need to add functionality around social media linkages and community management to cover these more fleeting relationships. And lastly, consolidation. It's inevitable. The current channel software market is far too fragmented. There are too many vendors with too deep of a focus. Buyers generally want to work with fewer vendors overall and expect their preferred channel software vendors to cover more functional areas over time. So we'll start to see venture capital investments and other sources of merger and acquisition funding to support the transition to a much shorter list of platform-like vendors. And that's what we will think will be emerging in the future. So one last piece of advice maybe to those of you about to embark on a vendor selection process, looking for the right vendors to talk to match against your needs. And that is to spend maybe a little bit more time than you have been doing previously around exactly what you want to achieve with your automation project. Start with your overall vision of where you want to be and how you want to be working, let's say after the project is completed. And then also spend a lot of time really thinking about the needs of the people in your organization, the processes in your organization, and only then come to their technology. So what I've just described is actually the concept of design thinking, where in design thinking, when you're planning a project and planning a project composition, you consider the customers, the end users of your project. And in this case, they would be the employees in your company who will actually have to use the software and adopt the software that you're buying. Well, actually, in the case of channel enablement, it's very important also to think about your partners or potential partners, because they will be making decisions based on the software that you present to them about whether they want to partner with you or not. decisions maybe based on accessibility of the software, usability of the software, ease of use, understandability, things like that. So that's something you really need to take into account when you think about software in this category, especially. So maybe the whole emphasis is, instead of automating the process, think about the experience of your users. Then, of course, the normal scenario is create your shortlist and then make those vendors work hard to earn your business. Give them your business scenario, not theirs, and have them reproduce that in front of you with a demo. Put your people into their teams so that they get an insight into how they work and how they work on customer success. And maybe even plan a few issues, changes, last minute modifications to your needs, just to see how the vendor reacts and is able to do business with you. And of course, for companies that are maybe not local to many of these vendors who are North American vendors, you'll need to think about local implementation partners and think about the availability of implementation and support resources. And that's usually very often a very critical factor in Europe or in Asia when you're working with software. So some general piece of advice now, just to round out my point of view around the vendor selection process. So I hope that was all of interest to you. You can see here my email address. I'd love to get feedback from all of you who are listening, and in return, what I'll do for that feedback is provide you with the full report around channel enablement and marketing with all the different vendor scorecards. But other than that, I'll now hand back to Kerry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for those insights. As a marketer, it is a lot to take in. And if you're like most companies, your journey of digital transformation, it's ongoing and it can be daunting, but it's worth it. I'll jump back in for a minute with a quote from a presentation what we did with our customer at Xerox. The leader of digital transformation, she said, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and it's gorgeous in the end. It really is worth it. And you know, as a marketer, I really do. I absolutely understand that challenge. And I understand the satisfaction that you have when you have built a marketing and channel enablement tech stack that keeps you ahead of the competition. We understand this as a company, and we're here with you, we're here for you with the industry's most complete channel management and marketing stack. Again, Peter, we're so excited to see how we came out in your recent research. We are the capstone technology provider that helps you take care of your entire contemporary marketing ecosystem, enabling both your traditional partners and marketing through and to them. And we also help you harness the power of those emerging referral partners that Peter is talking about, those non-transactional partners. That is the fastest growing partner group. An example would be Microsoft. They're currently adding 7,500 partners a month, and 80% of those are non-traditional, non-transactional partners. So Peter mentioned our recent acquisition of Amplifity and their referral automation platform. So we've got you covered. So don't worry. I showed you a slide earlier of all of our customers and that incredible growth, and it's crowded, but we can make space for you right up there in the upper right-hand corner. We've got room for your logo. So with that, let me close out by directing you to our site for a demo so we can bring to life what it is that we deliver for our customers, and we would hope to be able to deliver for you. And also, for a complete copy of the report, here is the link that will take you to the research that Peter has outlined. So Peter, again, thank you so much for your insights today. We really appreciate your deep look at the market, and we thank you all for joining today, and we look forward to having the opportunity to work with you moving forward. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.